guys, welcome back to Mindnseek. Thanks again for joining me here today. What I'm going to talk to you about are two different themes, one being this idea of response and reaction, and the other idea is self-importance. So what I want to begin with is the concept of response and reaction. So when we say reaction, normally, for instance, if we're in a conversation with someone, and depending on the context of what they're asking us or telling us, we may react almost instinctually, right? It doesn't take us too long before we give them some sort of an answer or reaction. So this is mainly because of our ego, okay? Our ego blocks us from actually tapping into our source, our source of intelligence. And like I said, depending on what the other person is asking you or telling you, and if, for instance, if you give a reaction that is hot-tempered and angry, for instance, where do you feel like that reaction is coming from? Okay, from what I've talked about many times, our ego is always trying to protect us. It's always in this dangerous state of being. So if someone gives us bad news, it doesn't take us very long for us to react to that. Do you notice how within seconds we have a quick reactive response to that? Okay, that is not our true self. Okay, when I say self, I mean our true essence, our true spirit is not the one that's really responding to the other person in conversation. Okay, this is our ego, okay, in the fight or flight mode, trying to protect us. Okay, and what this is doing, it's completely blocking our intelligence. We are no longer tapping into our source of intelligence to respond. We are putting a wall up. We're putting a guard up and reacting. Okay, and for majority of us, even for myself, I am very guilty of this. It is very hard for us to be spiritually and internally disciplined enough to calmly think about what that person is saying and not react, but respond. And sometimes responding doesn't mean verbally. It could be non-action too, right? You don't have to have some sort of action for it to be impactful. On the contrary, sometimes non-action is much more impactful, right? So what I'm trying to say is when we are in a reactive mode, right, we are getting out of our true selves, our true essence, and we are in the control. We are letting the ego control us. We're allowing it to be in the driver's seat. And for us to feel almost attacked, and we want to attack back, right? When we are reacting, this is truly coming from the root of the fear of rejection. Rejection is the source of any sort of outrageous reaction to things, right? Internally, subconsciously, unconsciously, we are afraid of rejection. We want to tell the other person, no, don't reject me. And that's why we have that sort of reaction. We put a guard up. And this is all, again, coming from the unconscious ego that is not in it to truly protect us. It is not in it to truly protect our spirit. So in this sense, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and talk to you more about response now, as opposed to reaction, the main difference. Now, response comes from people who are internally, spiritually disciplined enough that you have such a energy that's been so calm and centered that we are able to filter every single word a person tells us. Okay, and this is the process. This is the main difference between reacting and responding. When you are reacting, you are not filtering every word in conversation that the person in front of you is talking about. Okay, and that's the neglect. You are neglecting that aspect, right? But when you are responding, you are going through the filter process, right? Your awareness is on. You are listening to every word that they're saying, okay? And your essence is, your intelligence is filtering what's going on. You are finding the source of what that person is saying, and therefore you are responding afterward. Generally, when someone has something negative to say towards you, right, your intelligence knows well enough that person is coming from hurt, okay? most people do not come from a place of true malice. They do not come from a place of wanting to hurt the other person. It is a direct reflection of what that person is going through. So if that person is going through some pain and turmoil, that is directed towards you, because it's much harder to focus that on yourself. It's much harder to look inward and for us to find solutions to this turmoil we feel. So the quickest way to do that is to throw it at someone else. So when we are in a conversation or in a situation where someone is spatting things at you, right? Trying to blame you for certain things, trying to question your integrity, who you are, all of that. Generally, majority of us, it doesn't take us very long to respond or react. We quickly react, okay? Because we are trying to protect ourselves in that regard of we don't want to be rejected. We don't want to look like the bad guy. But when you are standing still in this situation, right? Where you are not tapping into the unconscious anymore. Now you are tapping into awareness, and you are calmly listening to every word this person is telling you and filtering that. Now you are tapping into the portal of your true intelligence, your true essence. And what comes out of that is absolute beauty. What comes out of that is complete strength, okay? So now you are completely focused. Your answer is well thought out. And now you're in full control of the situation, even if the person in front of you may not be. Okay, so now you've taken the keys from your ego, who is so out of control, and you are now saying, hey, I'm in control of this situation. I'm going to make the best of the situation. Okay, and that is the best case scenario. So that is definitely the main difference between response and reaction, right? So I'll sum it up before I move on to the next topic at hand. So the reaction comes from our undisciplined essence and spirit that is not able to filter through what people are telling us and finding the source and root of that, okay? And that's the majority of people in society. It is very hard, and it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of time for us to reach that certain state of mind where we are disciplined enough, where we are not reacting anymore, but we are responding to people, okay? And in contrary, simply responding to people, that takes, like I said, a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of patience and finding your true peacefulness within you, okay? And I haven't met too many people who are able to reach this state of mind. And it is something so crucial. It is something that we all can use in today's society, because it is so easy to get stressed out and angry and lash out at people that you love, your family. You know, I myself am guilty of that. You know, I may seem very friendly and open and patient, but when it comes to certain things like family members, I have a tendency of I might, react, and instead of patiently listening to what that person's saying, and it doesn't put me in the best light. But that is truly being honest here, and there's still so much growth that I myself have to do. But this is something that we all can practice, and it's something very beneficial for everybody, and it's something that we should all be very knowledgeable about. Now, what I want to move on to is this theme of self-importance. Now, when we generally think of self-importance in the Western world, we may define it as someone who is self-confident, has no self-doubt, is pretty self-assured. That is kind of the general idea that we see people with self-importance. However, what I want to talk to you about today is this theme of self-importance that does not come from the Eastern philosophy that I normally talk about, but comes from another philosophy that I'm deeply passionate about. It's called Toltec, spelled Toltec. And this is derived from ancient Mexico. And the direct definition of Toltec means artists. So the artists from ancient Mexico. Now, some historians may debate this concept of, they believe that ancient Mexicans back at that time have very little relevance to what I'm talking about with this new thought, with this new philosophical concept of what I'm going to talk to you about. But it is up to you how you want to interpret this. There are pioneers today, people like, I'm sure you've heard of Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the Four Agreements, and then my personal favorite, who is Carlos Castaneda, who is a very big influence in my life. And these two are the mainstream pioneers who really brought the Toltec New Age philosophy to light. However, what I want to talk to you about, the idea of self-importance, it's going to go a little bit deeper than, for instance, what like the book The Four Agreements would go into. Miguel, what he did was he pretty much generalized and simplified these wonderful concepts and affirmations for everyday living. But what I want to do is I want to go into a little bit more detail and dissect the importance of self-importance, which I think has a little bit more of a aggressive, I don't want to say aggressive nature, but it has a little bit more of a deeper impact if you truly understand the concepts behind these certain themes. So with further ado, I will go ahead and talk about self-importance that is derived from the Toltecs, and I hope you truly enjoy it. So for the Toltecs, our identity, which is created through society, and it has so much parental and environmental influence, is blocking us from our true essence. Okay, and because we create so many layers within our identity, and our ego is such a powerful influencer in our everyday lives, that our ego does not allow us to pierce right into the other quality that we may experience, another perception, another like I said, another quality of life that we could pierce. But because of our identity, how truly heavy our identity has become over many years, this doesn't allow that. Okay, and what how self-importance ties into this, I'm going to get into that, is for the Toltecs, self-importance is how much importance you give to your identity. That was not yours to, it was not in your hands to create in that regard. Okay, because of outside influences, you are not able to easily live a life that truly touches your potential, nowhere near it. Okay, because we are so easily influenced by people's opinions, our relationships, our loved ones. Okay, because we are so easily affected and influenced, and we allow their dynamics, and we allow their relationship with ourselves to affect us on such a level that we go further and further away from our true selves. Okay, that in regards to self-importance, okay, when we are not in full control of how we react to people, to the environment, to life situations, okay, when we let our ego do all of the work for us, when we get caught up in everyday dilemmas and situations, and we get lost and conflicted and traumatized and confused, these are all wrapped around this chaotic identity that puts too much highlight on the self, okay, not the true self, the superficial self. So when the superficial self is at the center of our universe, the center of our world, we are made to suffer. Okay, and because we are suffering, okay, we are living in a constant state of self-importance. Okay, so instead of putting the importance on our essence, instead of putting the importance on our true spirit, right, we are too contained and distracted by everything else that goes on around us. Okay, and when we are able to remove ourselves from that situation, from those distractions, we are one step closer to understanding our potential. Okay, and for the Toltecs, they call this being a warrior. You when you put yourself in the position of becoming a spiritual warrior, right, you are no longer concerned with the mundane, everyday little distractions and dilemmas and toxic relationships, and you no longer respond to that. I should say react to that, because we already talked about this. Okay, when you are not influenced by these trivial things, okay, which for spiritual people, we consider these things spiritual, trivial, okay? Now we are much closer to being focused on what our true goals are. Okay, so that means we are taking the control back. We are taking the keys back from the ego and saying, I need to focus on what's really important. And this is not the self, not the superficial self. So for the Toltecs, when we are so contained and our focus is on the exterior and our focus is on the superficial self, we are living in stagnancy, okay? We are stagnant. Most of us are not quite aware of this. You may ask, how is that being stagnant? We're always active, we work out, we have friends, we have a social life, we have good relationships. My life is anything but stagnant. But that is not the case, okay? So when you are a seeker, when you are looking for something beyond just this external distraction within life, when you want to go beyond that and you want to focus on truly honing in and strengthening who you truly are, okay, your focus cannot be those things anymore. Now, I'm not saying for you to let go of these relationships, for you to let go of your social life and your work life and so on, but for you to simply question, what may be toxic in your life. And it's very easy for you to get rid of certain things in your life, right? We may feel like we have such strong attachments and such a hold on relationships or people you feel like may have control over you. But truly, when you feel like you could take that power back and you could say, you know what, I have control of my life and who's in it and who's not, and you don't need that toxicity, right? You could weed out what does not work for you in your life. Okay, so going back to this stagnancy that I'm talking about, right? When we are able to step aside from this identity that was created in the fear of extinction, when we are able to distinguish that and step away from that, okay, now you are stepping in the realm of power. You are stepping in the realm of awareness. You are stepping in the realm of truly finding out your capabilities and your abilities and your true strength, right? So that's what the Toltecs teach us, that self-importance stems from the bruised ego that doesn't want us to truly feel important. Okay, it's very contradicting. Self-importance is so tied in with our identity that we are so completely distracted by everything around us that we are not able to step outside of ourselves and to seek what's truly important. Okay, so with that said, I will wrap up this video. I hope you enjoy this talk, and I will have further discussions on such topics and more Toltec topics and Eastern philosophy for you for next time. So thanks again for joining me, and can't wait to see you again very soon.